Hello everyone, this is Tristan Freeman, and this is my MUX Class 1308 Week 2 reflection video. This entire usability experience has been fairly eye-opening and nerve-wracking yet enjoyable at the same time. It's given me a lot to think about, and this is an app that I want to finish and have in the App Store eventually, so in a way, it kind of gives me even more to consider before getting it out there. Just a quick run through of what I have right now for my prototype. I actually used the Interface HD app, and it's quite an amazing tool. It is pretty much completely drag and drop. A little easy to fat finger things when you're trying to resize elements. But it's extremely easy, I found, to get the prototype working. The only downside I see to it right now is that it's still kind of seems to be in its early stages. So there's no way to dynamically create things, where typically I would use one display or details page and then populate it based off of what the user selects. In this case, I had to create a separate detail page for pretty much everything. Same thing with table views. I couldn't use one table view and just populate it based on whether the user chose prescription, non-prescription, or supplements. I had to actually create a separate table and a separate view and prototype screen for each of those. So that was a little additional work that wasn't quite nice, but it is what it is. One other issue, I think Patty mentioned it as well, that when you export it to Xcode and open it up, there were some funny little glitches. The alert didn't have any information in it. As I'll show you my password field that I have, I just typed in a random name for the password and it showed up as the actual text instead of the asterisk like it does in the simulator. But other than that, it was pretty cool. It does everything in code. When you export it to Xcode, there's no XIBs, there's no storyboards, so it's a little difficult to decipher some of it and find where changes might need to be made. But at the same time, that's going to be a great tool with the dissecting to be able to learn a little more about how to create these things with just code. So we'll go ahead and get started on the demonstration. I tried to choose a color scheme that was comforting, yet kind of muted, somewhat healthcare-ish. And I know Megan pointed out in her video review of my project, which I didn't think of, is kind of altering the tab bar a little bit. But I initially set it up here with the home and just settings. So the button to get started, which brings up the login screen, and as you can see, it actually came up with the name John Smith instead of the asterisk. But I put in the indicator, loading indicator, just to identify that that's what it would look like. That actually threw off a lot of people. A lot of people stuck with this screen when I was doing the testing, thinking that it was working and doing something. So in hindsight, I probably should leave that off for the testing, even though I know that it will be there. But I put the Remember Me button there to kind of try and give the user a shortcut. And then you can log in. It comes up with profiles. That way you can keep track of medications for family members if you'd like to, whether it's your children or grandparents or really anyone that you would be interested in keeping track of within your household. To go into the profile, well, in fact, backtrack a little. To add, click the button. Right now it's just a very, very basic thing, just your name. Either save or cancel for the prototype goes back to the profiles. Either of these pretty much goes to the same thing. So I did John Smith, and I just put user's name here to try and let people know that whatever name you choose, what will be there. You've got the categories, the prescription, non-prescription, and vitamins or supplements. If you click on that, that brings up the list of prescriptions, or whichever it is. So I threw in some dummy data to add, click the button, and it comes up. For now, I've got medication strength, starting quantity of, how many pills are in the bottle, dosage, as in when do you take it, and then any comments, because I realized that sometimes you use medications for an off-label use, meaning something that they're not really intended to be used for, but they have found works for that condition. So when you get done, save, it'll bring it back up. If you go click on one of these, it brings up the detail, which is really just the same thing that was in the form. And that goes the same thing for any non-prescription or supplements. It's all the same navigation. Home button is not working in the simulator. Settings, I just came up with what it would look like. I would like in the settings to try and give users some options for like the home icon and settings. Custom colors I want to do, the prototyper would not let me put in color swatches here. And then just what it might look like when it's saving the settings. I put the survey button up here, which will take you to it, which there it is, and it does not have my home button in it. So give me a moment and I will reboot. Okay, so I am back to the settings page, and really the last thing to go over here is the information button. Again, it didn't transfer my actual alert. Before I went and tested this on my iPad, I went ahead and put back into it that this application was created by Tristan Freeman for usability testing. This is a class assignment for the Mobile Development Bachelor's Program at Full Sail University. Just so people have a little extra information about why I'm doing the app and that kind of thing. As far as the usability testing, user testing, it was quite the experience. Because I'm doing a medical app, I tried to go to those specific locations. I put on my plan that I was going to get 10 people to test it and do the surveys. I was actually only able to get 9, and barely that, in fact. So I think I bit off maybe a little more than I could chew as far as my timing. But I went to 2 pediatricians' offices and got quite a bit of help from some parents there. Some that would like to keep track of their children's medications. A couple I actually lucked out and had a use of their own for this app. A lot of great feedback, a lot of enthusiasm about my idea, a lot of interest. So the results, though, overall impression of the app was actually quite good. 6 out of 9 thought it was an awesome app. 3 of them thought it was good. So that tells me I could definitely use some improvement. I would like to have had that be everyone thought it was awesome. But you can always improve something. Completing the basic tasks, everyone thought it was very easy. Navigation cues, everyone thought was very easy to interpret. No one really found anything confusing, so it tells me I did label things fairly well to help guide the users. And I just said, what would make your experience with this app better? To try and see what do the users really want. One person skipped answering this one, but I got some really good ideas. One said pharmacy info, doctor information, and prescription number added to it. One here was very detailed, very pleasant woman. Talked to her for a little while in the pediatrician office. Said a history of meds, which is a great idea, never thought of. Doctor information, which in her case was referring to not just the doctor, but the address and contact number for that doctor, which I kind of have here. Which doctor prescribed it, with the location phone number, a history of the usage of the med. So you may have been prescribed for 7 years, but you weren't very good at taking it as you were intended to. So you could pull that up and kind of see the pain points of your own medication management. She said generic and regular names of prescriptions, which is a good point. There are many different versions of different stuff, and the quality can vary quite a bit versus from name brand versus generic. So, and one thing I really never thought of was the ability to print overall current meds. My intent was to keep this app to keep track of this stuff, but it never really occurred to me that there may in fact be a need to print that list. So that was a very, very awesome suggestion that I really do want to look into. And then she also said when to take the medication, such as morning, midday, PM, whatever. One tester said shortcuts would be nice, but the app's good already. One had alarm for when to refill, and then add the prescription refill number, which I'm already planning to do an alert when it's time to refill. It's something I wasn't really able to get too deep into this week, and not using the Interface HD app. But it is on my wish list. Someone said maybe adding an additional tab that offers more information. Because I had the info button on the settings page, and a couple people had a little bit of trouble finding that. And settings isn't quite the right word for what it was. So I'm going to rethink that a little bit. One person said the ability to refill meds from the app, which I think is going to be a huge headache with HIPAA and trying to anticipate which pharmacies people will use. So I may be able to do the majors, the most common pharmacies, but they also have camera functionality so that you can take pictures of handwritten prescriptions. And being in the digital age, it didn't occur to me either that some doctors still handwrite prescriptions. So it would be nice to take a picture of that and store it as well. So one person said an expanded view panel of all prescriptions at once, with options to categorize by the sections, alphabetize, or by dosage. And an upgrade would be the functionality to add sections and notes for each entry, which is a good point. And then the last one that filled it out said provider access and med information link. Provider access is another thing I would love to have. I plan to have it eventually, but HIPAA is very strict with access to information like that. So I have my work cut out for me. But overall, it was a very inspiring and humbling experience going out and not just cold approaching people, which is really weird and uncomfortable, but to get the feedback that it really makes me feel good about what I'm doing with this app and tells me that I'm definitely on the right track. For the most part, I have what people want. But that about covers my prototype and the results from the user testing. So thank you for watching and have a great day.